welcome to TROPHÉE Andros. Go across to the wonderful, spectacular THORENS part of France for a combination of the four-wheel drive, four-wheel steer cars that are known as, of course, the Silhouettes, and also the TROPHÉE Andros Electrique. Plus we have the AMV bike series and the competition purely for the lady racers in the buggies. And it's going to be an interesting mixture of drivers that we see. The most spectacular of all, you could argue, is this man, Sébastien Loeb, the number 6 Citroën DS3, a very familiar car to Sébastien, of course. And that is what he is going to be taking part in for the very first time in TROPHÉE Andros. He's been doing, of course, World Touring cars this year, previously sports car racing, and, of course, a 9 times World Rally Champion for Citroën. And fabulous start for him, 6th in the first qualification and 3rd in the second one for 6th overall at the end of the 2 qualifying sessions. So gets himself a place in the Super Finale. Olivier Panis, another driver, very successful here in TROPHÉE Andros. In the Toyota Auris, having previously raced for Toyota, both in, of course, ice racing here at TROPHÉE Andros, but of course in Formula 1 as well. And Olivier on board a car being run by the WRT team, a team that run, of course, in the Blancpain Endurance Series, and a fabulous performance by Olivier, getting himself into the top 2 overall most of the sessions and ending up 3rd on combined times.
Il était un petit peu mis sous cloche sur les autres disciplines.
Un homme battu, Gérard Fontanelle.
Allez, déjà une première réponse, Philippe. Le premier passage d'Olivier Panis.
Only one lap in the second leg of qualifying would have perhaps meant that a better qualifying for him could have been achieved. Certainly would have been very close to the drivers immediate ahead of him, Benjamin Rivière and Jean-Philippe Desroux. But in the end, just that single lap and that very consistent performance in the first session meant that overall 3rd was a pleasing result for a man who will see his son Aurélien in action once again in the Andros Trophy Electrique. The bright sunny conditions here in Val Thorens, and really good conditions in terms of the snow at this stage. But remember, these guys, of course, running on these very narrow tyres, especially designed for this type of motorsport, with 360 tungsten studs and the identical Yokohama tyres that are run by all of the drivers, given just 6 tyres to work with over the weekend. Naturally, as the ice and the snow starts to wear away, that can cause some issues in terms of perhaps even the studs coming away. Franck Legors, well, a man who took success last year in both the TROPHÉE Andros Electrique and in the main Silhouette Formula, was pushing the ultimate champion Jean-Philippe Desroux very hard, taking 3 wins, driving last year for the DA Racing team in the Renault Clio 3. This time aboard the Dacia Logi that last year, of course, we saw Olivier Panis on board, and he ended up qualifying well. Did Lagos in 5th position, and the Mazda team are back. A fabulous impression they made in the very first attempt last year with the then all-new Mazda 3, and this time they've got Mr. TROPHÉE Andros, the man who's close to overtaking the legendary Ivan Müller for overall victory. Jean-Philippe Desroux, man who's won 4 championships in the last 5 years, has been absolutely super consistent, moving across to Mazda, and the same performance between the two of them. It's looking like it was going to be a massive battle between Desroux, Rivière, and also Panis, Räikkönen, Legors and Loeb for the overall performance. In the end, Franck Legors ended up on combined times in 5th position. A bit of fog causing things to be a little bit more challenging than perhaps before. But for Jean-Philippe Desroux, the Team Mazda France car were entering a number of cars as we've seen them do before. A couple of cars for Topi Räikkönen, the World Rally World RX star rather, and of course Jean-Philippe Desroux, and he was very pleased to take pole position. You can see just how difficult the conditions became later on, and even this showing you just how hard Legors was trying, and off broken rear suspension. Of course, it's not just suspension on these cars, 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steer underneath the very distinctive body styles that you see from Dacia, from Mini, from Citroën, from Toyota, etc. They are, of course, essentially the same. So in the darklist, Elite Finale, Part 1. The Dacia Duster of Christian Bourgeon and Olivier Pernal also up there in the DS3. Yellow flags flying very early on. And you can see the spectacle of the cars coming through the little yellow Mini that's being run by Saint-Eloque with great success for Gerard Fontenelle, a race winner here in this event before, here in Val-Thorens, not last year but the year before. But it started to get very, very competitive between these guys early on, as you can see. Difficult because the points, remember, are taken mainly from the qualifying performance. So 80% of the points are actually taken from their qualifying times, and then the remaining 20% as a side-by-side moment with the Mini going into that very tight corner, 760 meters long here. So definitely not a lot of time to really get the cars in much of a straight line. As you can see, the technique that all of these guys use is to pitch the cars in very, very early and get the thing sideways almost before they're starting to turn. And we've got drivers that we've seen taste success like André Dubourg in the family-run DA Racing team, sharing, of course, the car as always. You see the A and the B, and this year they've changed the regulations so that you have the Elite and Elite 2. So basically the gentleman class is effectively Elite 2. So invariably you'll see a mixture of drivers getting mixed up, but it is Bourgeon, who was in the Mazda last year, who's looking the strongest of the cars at the moment. Fontenelle, who we mentioned before, in the yellow Saint-Eloque Mini. They're interesting, Saint-Eloque running not just that, but also the car for Sébastien Loeb that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So interesting to see which the team seems to get the best handle on it at this early start in the season. Battles raging throughout the race. You can see just how out of shape Fontenelle getting there, with close behind Fontenelle pushing Bourgeon all the way. Bourgeon in the Sport Garage entered with Sodemo. Sodemo, the legendary engine builders, of course, involved in all kinds of types of high-level motorsport, and even now the British Touring Car Championship. Now the black and white warning flag going out. Interesting to see what that's going to be resulting in, any difference in tactics for any of these drivers. But look at that, to the inside goes Fontenelle, and he gets ahead of Bourgeon. Fabulous drive by him. The rest of the cars getting a little bit caught up. You can see that the difference in drivers at this stage is very, very small. Hardly anything in it in terms of who's doing what performance-wise. But a fabulous move by Fontenelle, using his experience, one of the most experienced guys. You can see the 5-car of André Dubourg coming through and putting himself into a challenging position for a top 3 finish. Up to 3rd for Bourgeon. Just behind that, Pernod, Olivier Pernod, fighting hard. He shares the car, that DS3, you see the white and black one there, shares that car with his father, Jean-Pierre Pernod. So again, Saint-Eloque Racing running not just the Minis and the DS3s as well. See the level of performance here, so equal lap times wise, very little in it this stage in the event. But it does look like Fontenelle has just maybe done enough. Bourgeon certainly not giving up, as André Dubourg works very, very hard to try to get himself back in, and Grayazan working his way in as well. Dubourg certainly not giving that one up at all. Wesley Grayazan in the 15 car, right in the mix as well, as a bit of contact, almost contact there. gets himself through, but it looks like it's going to be. Oh, Fontenelle is just going to hang on. Fontenelle takes the win. The battle further down, though, was to see Dubourg and Greyersan take themselves into second and third for the final. So this time into the second of the finals here for the top line drivers. We're right on board with Olivier Panis in the number 7 Toyota Auris, working very, very hard to try to get himself into a competitive position, having had that good qualification in one half of the session. Remember, they take their best 3 or 4 laps and they take their single individual lap, which gives them the performance, and then they can take a single combined time from the 2 sessions, which gives them a number of different options and gives them the good performance. But it was, of course, Panis, the man that has been competitive throughout. Almost took a victory in the very first round here last year, but got a penalty for yellow flag infringement. And that cost him overall victory, got pushed down the order as a result. Jean-Philippe Deyreux and Benjamin Rivière, they were the drivers that were looking most likely to get in the mix and fight for that overall win. But of course, you can never count out Jean-Philippe Deyreux. They get more and more sideways through one of the tight hairpins here at Val Thorens. Traditionally the opening round of this particular event here. And you can see that battle between Rivière Panis and Topi Heikkinen, as he's known too much, as you see on the entry list. And Heikkinen out there fighting in one of the other Team Mazda France cars. But second between Rivière and Panis. Quite spectacular throughout. Further on in the race, Lagos, Rivière, Panis, basically working their way into this total fight throughout. No doubt that there's going to be no love lost between these guys towards the end of it, as the lap times start to come in. Anything under the 50-second mark is very competitive. The second lap of the race for Jean-Philippe Deyreux of 49.778. And impressive stuff from him. Sébastien Loeb in there fighting with other experienced guys like Bertrand Ballas and Jean-Baptiste Dubourg, another man who's been successful, having a couple of wins last year. Rivière finished second in the championship, 2 years on the bounce. He's in a Citroën DS3, which he had all of his success with before. Last year driving the Mazda alongside that man Panis. This year back in the very familiar Citroën DS3. Deyreux looking completely at home as he gets towards the end of the race. 8-lap final here of the Super Elite 2, but the battles beyond beyond that, you can see Panis, Loeb, everybody else getting right in the mix there. Remember, Mazda have yet to win an event here overall. As you say, Rivière getting well and truly stuck in, and then Sébastien Loeb and the number 7 car of Olivier Panis, nose to tail, such experienced guys. Loeb, of course, arguably the most popular man in France in terms of motorsport. But in this particular environment, It's his Citroën teammate in the World Touring Car Championship, rather, Ivan Muller, that's been the master of this form of motorsport until this man, Jean-Philippe Deroux, has become increasingly the man to watch. The first ever win in Andros for Mazda. Deroux now equals Ivan Muller in terms of wins. Further behind, that battle there between Lagos, Heiken and Rivière. Jean-Baptiste Dubourg runs all the way to the line, and it is Lagos who takes second ahead of Heiken and Rivière, with Jean-Baptiste Dubourg ahead of Panis Loeb, and then Bertrand Ballas rounding out the top 8 of the finishers. So that's what the points look like after the first set of races. Jean-Philippe Deroux top of the point standing, ahead of Rivière, Lagos, Heikkinen, Panis, Jean-Baptiste Dubourg, Loeb, Ballas, Fontenelle, Bergeron, and then Andrea Dubourg. So we go over to the Trophy Andros Electric, the first of the finals, and it is Franck Lagos, Patrick Tombe, son Adrien, Christophe Ferrier and Louis Gervaison, who was a victor here last year, that are the drivers that are right in the mix from the very beginning. Yellow flags waved through that first corner, as they always do, just a bit like Macau, where there's a corner where you're not allowed to overtake at any point, just simply because it's almost always going to end in tears. But no doubt that these little electric vehicles have become so popular as the battle. So Tombe edging his way ahead of Franck Lagos. And Vincent Beltoise a little bit further back, a man who raced successfully last year in this series, a man who's been racing in sports cars, a Porsche Carrera Cup France and other events. As Marshall gets in the way of our camera quite inconveniently there. Great job that these guys do. Well, you think marshalling at a cold Silverstone must be bad. Imagine what it must be like up in the middle of the mountain. It's pretty brutal for these guys, working hard as always, but it is the 11 car of Adrien Tombe that's starting to edge away. It's been very successful in the past, has Adrien. A couple of wins last year. Right in the mix throughout whatever he's racing. There's a drama for Beltoise there. Vincent Beltoise running in the number 2 Steph entered car. As we look for the other drivers to watch, of course, Aurélien Panis, 2 wins last year for the young man who's been racing in Formula Renault thus far this year. So like some of these other young drivers, round goes the number 1 car for Aurélien Panis. Drama for him. And the battle for second continues. Ferrier, Lagos and Gervaison working very hard, but it looks like it's going to be Adrien Tombe who starts to get himself away from the rest of the pack. Certainly looking very much in control at the moment. These lap times very close between these guys. 54.889 last time round. Starting to just gently edge away from the battle behind between Franck Lagos, who's been Mr. Andros Trophy in these things, has been involved in driving the Andros entered, a very distinctive little green machine for many years now, and combines it brilliantly with now regularly racing in the Silhouette formulas, as well as, of course, these wonderful little devices which have a potential of 130 kilometers an hour. We've raced them on tarmac as well at the circuits of Pau. A huge amount of torque, as you'd expect. Us to the inside there, Lagos gets into a bit of a drama, and Christophe Ferrier, I think, manages to get himself away, but behind that, Gervaison, I think, going for third. Is he going to be able to make it stick? It's going to be a tricky one. If he does make it stick, that's very impressive stuff. 1 lap remaining now for our race leader. For Adrien Tombe, of course, had a busy year racing for Audi in the DTM series. Definitely getting it better and better each time in terms of his performances. Look at that though, Tombe now looking almost outside round the next corner before the rest of them appear, edging away even further now from the battle behind. As you can see, the other driver to mention there is Nathaniel Berton, who's been racing not only in GP2, former race winner in GP2, but also took pole position at Paul Ricard with the Murphy Prototypes car. So in the European Le Mans Series, so very busy has been Nathaniel. Likewise, Mathieu Varsevieres is also in there and returning to the series. As you see, the first win of the 2014 and 15 season for Adrien Tombe. Heads home, Franck Lagorce, Christophe Ferrier in third, ahead of Louis Gervaison. And then Nathaniel Berton, Vincent Beltoise, Mathieu Varsevieres, Aurélien Panis, Thomas Sisley, a French actor, and Joël Lopez rounding out the top 10 finishers.
Motors TV is, of course, the high-speed television channel. So what better place to broadcast top speed? Friday, December the 12th at 5:45 in the afternoon. The Lucas Oil Off-Road Race Series. Relive the 2014 season Round 2 from Chandler on Motors TV, Wednesday, December the 10th at 8:45 in the evening on the high-speed television channel.
So there's no doubt that the man that everybody has come to see here at THORENS is Sébastien Loeb, the 9 times world champion, making his debut in TROPHÉE Andros. And as always, that incredibly laid-back, relaxed style, all looking very easy for him, but a very different challenge for him. And his qualifying laps show you just how hard the Frenchman is having to work to understand how to get the best out of these cars. One of the things that Loeb has shown at so many different times in his career is his versatility. So whether it's his rallying success that we all know about, or the fact that he had moved across to test a Formula 1 car for Toro Rosso and was in the top 10 in terms of lap times. His prototype racing, finishing on the podium at Le Mans in an LMP1 car back in the 2006 period. And then, of course, racing sports cars, taking a debut victory last year, the opening round of the 2013 Blancpain Endurance Series aboard the McLaren with Alvaro Parent at Nogaro, or racing at Porsche at Pau in the dark, or of course taking that miraculous time in that spectacular Peugeot 206 at the Pikes Peak last year, and of course this year a race winner in World Touring Cars in his debut season. So the question is not if but when we will see Sébastien Loeb take victory in this magnificent series. It clearly thoroughly enjoyed. Of course, a lot of rally drivers adapt very well to this, but as we said before, it's like Deroux and Müller who have been the successful guys to look at statistically over the last few years. They, of course, come from a racing background. Interesting, though, of course, Yvan Müller and Sébastien Loeb coming from the same part of France, the Alsace region, where, of course, they have the Rallye de France now from that part of the world. In fact, Yvan Müller taking part in that event in a Citroën Zara a couple of years ago. First time that they run it down there. But as the qualifying session starts to unfold on this day 2, on the 7th, we were to see getting himself 8th and 9th overall. Some very, very brave cheerleaders in shorts, but they've got cold pom-poms. As we see the cars ready to go, with Loeb on pole position for the Elite Finale 2 with Gerard Fontenelle, who we saw doing such a fabulous job in the first day's racing. This time, of course, bright sunshine means it's much more likely to see that the snow and ice might disappear, and almost Fontenelle getting a run at Loeb there as they charged into the first corner once again. Loeb a little bit stuttering through as he gets onto the tarmac area, a little bit further back. Pernell and Girardi getting into each other. As you see, Fontenelle now under a lot of pressure from Christophe Bergeron, who gets past keen to get a little bit of revenge, I think. Grayazan, the Russian in the other of the Renault Clio's, back further down the order. But it means that it's going to be interesting to see whether Loeb can maintain that gap. First flying lap, 55.961 for Fontenelle, 53.7 for the race leader Loeb. So comfortably the fastest, as you perhaps would expect, with a clear track ahead. As you see, Fontenelle, Berger getting really into each other. Berger right in the mix, of course. No doubt that he's going to be a contender to watch as the year unfolds, as the season unfolds. 7 rounds across the Alpine region of France, of course. Such a popular form of motorsport. This is officially its 25th anniversary, of course, of this fabulous event. And we will, of course, bring you coverage of all of the events here on Motors TV. Fontenelle, though, well, lap times are telling the story that it's incredibly close between these two guys. The Saint-Aloc team, well, we mentioned that Olivier Panis is driving for WRT, of course, successfully run in Blancpain Endurance and other sports car series. But Saint-Aloc, very versatile team, not just running with great success. The last 2 championships have gone to Jean-Philippe Dairou in Saint-Aloc Run Mini. It was a bright red Mini that we saw him racing last year. Looked very much reminiscent of the classic Mini liveries from its heyday back 50 odd years ago in the Monte Carlo rally success with Paddy Hobkirk and Alton and all the other guys who used to rally them with such success. But look at this now, Fontenelle starting to put a bit of pressure on Loeb. Gerard Fontenelle, one of the older guys in the series, but still has not lost any of pace. Him and Bertrand Ballas are right up there in the sextagenarian department age-wise, but certainly have got everything to add. And look at that, Fontenelle sends it down the inside of Loeb. Didn't see that one coming. The 40-year-old from Alsace was not expecting the Mini to come to the inside, but he's not given up either. A bit of clashing. Well, that touring car racing that Loeb has been doing has clearly paid off for him, and he's using a bit of that experience to bash and bang his way back into contention. But look at that fabulous technique by Fontenelle, just pitches the Mini in so early. And remember, effectively these guys are teammates, because whilst they're running in a different body style, underneath the cars are pretty much identical. They're effectively similar sort of engines that you'd have seen in things like the Sport Megane. You have these 3.5 litre V6 engines that were running in the Silhouette 4 formula that was running in that series for some time as part of the World Series by Renault. As I said, 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steer with 6-speed sequential box. Loeb coming back again. And these identical Yokohama tyres, by this stage in the weekend, having to work very, very hard as the snow and ice starts to get a little bit thinner. And there's some fairly big patches of pure tarmac for these guys to contend with. The start line official gives Fontenelle the knowledge that he has just that one remaining 760-metre lap here. Is he going to be able to hang on? He's under pressure from arguably the greatest rally driver of all time, certainly statistically for sure the greatest of all time. Loves a bit of tarmac, was always pretty competitive on snow, winning in Sweden of course in the past, so comfortable with his technique I think. But even this is very different, as the front end of that DS3 looks well and truly beaten up. Fortunately it's just a Silhouette formula, so shouldn't be any too badly damaged intrinsically, because remember they have to share the cars as well. They have a co-driver who does the other event, the other half of the event if you will, so the Elite and Elite 2. But it is looking like it's going to be a fabulous day for Gerard Fontenelle, fabulous weekend. He takes victory ahead of Loeb by just 9/10 of a second. Behind, equally a battle between Bergeron, who heads home, Girardi, Pernod and Grayazin. And that is our top 6 finishers for the final race. And we look at the second of the events here on the Sunday for the Silhouette cars. This time Deroux, Dubourg, Panis right in the mix as well. Lagos right at the front and edging himself away from Deroux. As a little bit further, the Dubourg brothers getting well and truly in the mix. Deroux back at the car that has been raced usually by Olivier Panis the last couple of years. Of course, Dacia taking success 3 years ago now it is with Alain Prost. Of course, another racing driver who adapted brilliantly to the challenge of snow and ice. Lagos, Deroux, Panis, Jean-Baptiste Dubourg, Trophy Heikkinen, all in the mix there. Panis really getting stuck in, just sticking the nose of the Toyota in there. But look at this, Deroux is coming back at Lagos side by side as they charge down the hill. All of the traction and all of the balance of the car working so hard. As Panis now sends it down the inside of Dubourg. It's interesting to see just how close these guys are on lap times as well. 48.852, 48.5 at the front for these guys. That far behind the battling Dubourg brothers, who've been such stars in French rallycross as well as their annual visit here. They had Lagos in the team last year, took a couple of victories, finished runner-up in the championship last year. And I'm sure he is going to be determined to try and go one better, but will have his work cut out to try and beat that man Deroux, who is always such a difficult guy to compete with. There's problems there. Round he goes. Dubourg drops down the order. Andrea Dubourg, that is. Will be in the hands of Benjamin Rivière coming through, and Bertrand Ballas a little bit further down the order as they charge towards the line. Looks like it is going to be Lagos. Have I spoken too soon? Deroux coming back at him. Took his first ever win for Mazda. He could Ivan Muller in terms of overall success. Fabulous performance by Deroux for the team Mazda France. Entered by the Sport Garage team last year. Running the Sport Garage, running that Dacia Logi. There's also a Dacia Duster that's in the mix as well. Last couple of laps, lap times have started to drop away a little bit as I think the tyres are maybe going. Certainly very little in it in terms of the overall times as they cross the line. Deroux trying that tighter inside line, see if he can get better drive where the snow's a bit deeper on the inside, slightly offline. Steam pouring off the front of the Mazda. And you'll notice, if you're familiar with the layout of the Mazda 3, that you have a choice of the Sportback version or the hatchback version, and that's obviously the hatch version. But you notice it's a 3-door car, not a 5-door car, and that's because obviously they run to a slightly smaller dimension in terms of the body style that they're able to run. They're running in the very distinctive soul red colour that Mazda's use to promote their cars. There's a single lap to go now between Lagos and between Deroux. Deroux come back on the inside as he seems to like to do at this particular corner, where he's tried and he's tried and he's tried. But the Eurodata car supported Dacia. Dacia, such a successful brand across Europe. In France, of course, part of the Renault group, so hence they are actually popular here. One of the most successful brands in Europe now in terms of increasing in volume sales, with their fabulous technologies that you've seen them use, and different clever technologies. And around and backwards goes Deroux, almost off. Tried an even more audacious manoeuvre that time, but it is going to be Franck Lagos who takes victory ahead of Jean-Philippe Deroux. In third position, Olivier Panis hangs on in the Toyota ahead of Trophy Heikkinen Andrea Dubourg recovered to 6th position. Benjamin Rivière in 7th, and then I did not finish for Bertrand Ballas. But there's no doubt that Ballas will be back and will be as competitive as ever. So that's what it looked like at the end of day 2. Maximum points available, 45. But you can see there, that's what we've got from Lagos leading Deroux, Dubourg, Panis, André Dubourg, Rivière, Icon, Ballas, Fontenay, Loeb, and Barragem. So the second of the Andros Trophy Electrique, and instantly Adrien Tambay, the race winner from the first day, heading into the lead ahead of the second place car, Franck Lagos, fresh from his victory in the elite classification in the cars that are getting caught up in the background there. Around goes the number 8 car of Louis Gervaison. In the middle of that, Max Rivière getting caught up. Looking like he's going to be stuck there for a little bit. The 19 car, Nathaniel Berton. He's fighting hard in the mixture as well. Right at the front there of the pack, in the 3rd position battled that. As you can see, was Tambay and Lagos going through. Then you see the number 7 car coming into shot of Thomas Sisley in the guest car, the RDF guest car, and look at this, Tambay looking so comfortable at the front already. His first lap time of a 58.222 with some 2 seconds, 2.2 seconds faster than Lagos. You can see Rivière car's still stuck on the exit there. Doesn't look like he's going to be going much further. 82 kilowatts, these little electric motors, direct drive, so no gears. Literally it's stop and go, goes as fast in reverse as it does going forwards. And that's perhaps the technique that they're going to be adapting, but the point being is that they are incredibly torquey, as all electric powered vehicles are. And they give such a consistent power delivery. The battle further down the order, the 3 and the 4 car there, Lagos, and then further back at Thomas Sisley, the 7 car that we were talking about, was of course Natalia Berton, the GP2 and prototype racer, very experienced guy, which has been a race winner here in the Trophy Andros Electric. Took a debut win at Isola 2000, not last season but the season before. There is the 7 car, the Biovitis car, which is looking very, very strong. All of these cars run in-house by Max Mammers' Exagon even engineering organisation. They designed and built these vehicles, and we saw the first couple of seasons victory in the series for Nicolas Prost, and then the last 3 seasons it's been all about man Christophe Ferrier, the most successful electric car, Andros electric car as it's called, driver in the history of the series thus far. Based on the performance today, Adrien Tambay is going to be a man to watch throughout the balance of the season as Berton gets pushed very hard by Gervaison. It's a shame they haven't been able to do anything with Vassivier's car, but at least the drivers all know that these there Vincent Beltoise, who we saw having some problems in the opening race. Look at the gap now, it's Tambay consistently lapping now in the mid-54s, 54.6, 54.7, the last couple of laps. Around goes Lagos! Drama for Franck Lagos. Is he going to be able to recover? Well, he's quite a long way ahead of Natalia Berton, who just appears into view. And just for a moment, I think Lagos would have been thinking that that could have been a pretty disastrous end to the electric car side of the competition after such a successful run earlier on in the silhouettes, of course. Hairpins that you've got here at Val Thorens, always been one of the most popular venues for Andros Trophy in its 25 years. They've not only raced over here, of course, but they've also done some racing in Canada as well, and in Sherbrooke in Canada. Of course, we had some Canadian interest in Jacques Villeneuve, who was a race winner a couple of seasons ago. One of the many forms of motorsport that the 1997 F1 World Champion has tried with varying degrees of success. As of course, we talked about Topi Heikkinen earlier on in the Silhouette Formula. Of course, Villeneuve was driving for Andy Scott's team in the World RX, or RX World Series, if you like, for his problems further down the order. As the last couple of cars getting a little bit caught up. Tombe coming through to lap the number 5 car of Lopez into Marché car quite comfortably in the end, but initially it did look a little bit worrying. You see just a bit ahead of Revac Xavier car's stationary. Christophe Ferrier got caught up early on as well. And look at this, Tombe now, as cool as a cucumber, much like his father Patrick, the 2-time Grand Prix winner for Ferrari. Adrien comes across to take another victory in the electric car. Lopez, the lapped car, and then it's probably a quite relieved Franck Lagorce after that spin in the Andros entered car, largest fruit supplier in France or in Europe in terms of fruit goods like jams, etc. There's confirmation. It's Tombe from Lagorce, Berton, Gervaison, Beltoise, Panis, Sisley and Lopez round out our top 8. So the AMV Cup, the motorcyclist, arguably the most spectacular of any of the motorsport that we see here. Antoine Maillot is coming back after a load of injuries. Sylvain Dabert won the Saturday race. This is the race for the Sunday. And Antoine Maillot in the middle of it, but it's Dabert who takes the lead. Sylvain Dabert, and multiple champion in this formula. We've seen him get really stuck into the challenges that you have in this type of motorsport. As off and down the road goes Noël Duvier, the number 6 machine. He's okay, he's up and he's ready to go again. And last year we had a great initiative where the championship leader would be wearing a yellow number on their back rather than the rest of the riders that you see with the green numbers. No doubt that this is going to be a battle right the way to the end, because Maillot and Dabert doing super quick. They don't qualify in the same way as the rest of the guys do. They have a fairly sort of generic type of performance based on the times that they put in free practice. But is that 37 machine of Sylvain Dabert, but he's under pressure from that man Maillot. Saw him on an electric powered KTM in last season's events here, and last year they had an increase in the volume of numbers, and that was good to see, because eventually saw all these other guys right in the mix right to the end of the season. But look at this battling situation going on between Dabert and Maillot. Maillot in the number 40 bike in a KTM gets himself ahead. Just took a couple of races in last year, but it was Sylvain Dabert who was the champion by just 2 points. It was so neck and neck between him and Maxime Emeret. Now Maxime Emeret this season, which is a great shame. Always good to see the stocky frame of these guys that race in Supercross and other things throughout the season. A mixture of motocross and Supercross riders, and Supermotard as well, hugely popular in France. But AMV getting behind this event and supporting it never ever ceases to amaze me how these guys can keep themselves upright. The four machine rather of Gonnet coming through. It's one of the riders that's always been super competitive. Gonnet was in some of the events last year, but not that consistent. There you can see the very distinctive orange colour scheme of the KTM works machines. KTM heavily involved, as you can see the battle now between Gonnet and Dabert for that second position. It's going to run and run. I think it's going to be very, very tight between them at the end. A little bit further back, Cartier coming in and pushing really hard. Loic Cartier, another rider, competed in it last year. Very consistent. First 3 races, taking 4th position in all of the first 3 events last year. There was Val Thorens, Alpe d'Huez, Zola, Lens of Vacours, Superbès, and Sortie de Vosges. They were the events that we saw the bikes at last year. The previous season was just 3 events, which was, I felt, a bit short-changed because always some of the most spectacular action over the weekend in terms of defying balance. 63 machine coming through there of Joff, another rider that was right in the mix last year, Maxime Joff. Look at this battle now for second place between Dabert and Gonnet. That's going to run and run, I think. Got Sylvain Dabert and Vivian Dabert in there last season. The 2 of them both right in the mix throughout the year. Very confused with Duvert as well, Noël Duvert, another rider that was in amongst it. But it's the KTM machine of Antoine Maillot that's looking the strongest at the moment. Another KTM, but an SSXF machine of Sylvain Dabert just a little bit further behind, ahead of Gonnet. Often the way that you'll see these riders using different techniques. Some go in and take a much straighter, wider line to try and get the traction. Others just holding in as tight as they can to take the shortest possible route. Thereafter getting a straighter drive in many cases, but perhaps a little bit later on the power, so different ways of achieving a similar result. The result at the moment is looking pretty much set and done deal for Antoine Maillot. Giro rider looking very comfortable with just 1 lap to go. The gap now just over 4 seconds between him and the battling Dabert and Gonnet. In turn, they're a couple of seconds ahead of Cartier, Joff, the other Dabert, Yann Dabert in the mixture as well. Martinez, Philippe, Perez and Grasse, Duvert, Valla and Balanche. That's the rest of the riders running down the order. Mixture of KTM, Honda Betas, Husqvarnas, wonderful mixture of machines. You can run a 125, 250, whatever you think is the most appropriate solution, depending on power outputs. There's different ways of achieving, but one thing's for sure, it's his first win, and look at that for a spectacular finish for Antoine Maillot. First win of 2014-15, but also the first win ever for Maillot in this particular activity. Such a successful rider from other forms of bike racing, but it's Maillot from Sylvain Dabert, ahead of Vivian Gonnet, Loic Cartier, Romain Joff, Vivian Dabert, Grégoire Martinez, Vincent Philippe, Randy Perrison, Eliane Gras and Guillaume Raymond. So from Val Thorens, it's been a spectacular weekend of ice racing. The TROPHÉE Andros is back. Wins for Tombay, and we saw wins for Lagos. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you very soon.